recognizing safety. This is actually this was part of my building safety anchors course, and I took it out just because it was too much. This is really about recognizing safety. This may be a brand new concept if you have no idea what I'm talking about as far as polyvagal theory. My podcast, Stuck Not Broken, has episodes 101 through 109, which are a very, very, very deep dive into the polyvagal theory. I highly recommend you give those a listen, Stuck Not Broken. I also have my Polyvagal 101 course on justinlmft.com. But basically, when I talk about safety, I'm not talking about are you actually safe in your environment. I'm talking about are the biological pathways for safety activated, and those are the ventral vagal pathways. That's not super important, but what is important is that when I talk about safety, I'm talking about the biology of safety, okay? Not just are you literally safe, but are those pathways active? And the way you can tell that is you'll feel safe, but you'll also have some other experiences that I'm going to go into that you could recognize. So if you're brand new to the polyvagal theory, you're brand new to this whole like safety thing and how it relates to mental health, that's really what I'm talking about is are your biological pathways active for safety? And then are you able to socially connect with other people, and are you able to exist in the present moment and stay in your body? Basically, that's kind of the basic idea when I'm talking about safety. So that's all well and good, right? But what does it actually feel like? How can you actually identify it when you do get there? And especially if this is something new for you, like I work with teens, mostly teens. I have adult clients on the weekend and in the evenings as well. But I work with teens a lot who live in homes that completely lack co-regulation, that completely lack support, and are downright not helpful. I'll just put it that way. And so their ability to understand what I'm talking about, like if I talk about safety, like it just doesn't make sense. So I'll use other words, but yeah, their capacity to recognize safety and to feel it is significantly diminished. And that might be true for you as well, where maybe you did live a lifetime worth of a lack of safety, a lack of co-regulation. And so now, even decades later, when I talk about this stuff, you're like, what? What are you talking about? That could be very, very much true. So we got to talk about what it feels like when it does happen. So there might be the easiest way, maybe, is to look at this as two bodily sensations, two potentials, okay? And even this could still absolutely be a challenge, but that's what I'm offering up right now is maybe we could just look at it in two different ways, okay? And that would be, do you feel pulled towards something or pushed away from something? By the way, I'm looking at my notes over here. That's why I keep looking off to the side. Plus, I have another screen up for my open office hour. So that might be the easiest way, maybe, is do you feel pushed away from something or pulled towards something? And so maybe just a quick exercise here. Remember, think back to a time when you were, oh, by the way, this is not therapy, okay? Think back to a time when you felt like you truly wanted to be around somebody. This is like someone you were truly excited to see, someone that you smiled when you saw them. You smiled. You didn't like think about it. You didn't choose to. You just instantaneously smiled. Maybe you want to get closer to them. Maybe you want to give them a hug. Maybe you want to give them a kiss. Maybe you want to give them a handshake. Whatever it is, someone that you felt truly close to. Now, in that moment, as you recall that, in that moment, just reflect on that experience and let yourself, if you can, let yourself feel what it felt like in that moment when you truly felt like you wanted to be with that person. If you need to close your eyes, go right ahead. Now, what did your body feel an impulse to do in that moment? With that person that you genuinely wanted to be around, did you feel this impulse to get closer to them? Did you feel an impulse to hug them or kiss them or shake their hand, whatever it is? And I don't mean like you're doing these things because you have to. I'm saying that you do these things because you felt a genuine impulse to do them. So let yourself feel that if you can. And did you smile? When you saw this person, did you smile? Did you make eye contact with them? Were you able to hold it? In your body, did you feel more of a pull towards them, or did you feel more of a push away from them? Get up and move closer, definitely. Yeah. So you felt this pull towards them, right? That could be what safety feels like. I would say that is what safety feels like, but it's not. There is more to it. But that is an impulse of safety. It's an impulse to connect. That would mean that those ventral vagal pathways are activated and your capacity to socially engage has gone up, and you feel this impulse to go connect with that individual. So that's really the heart of what we're doing here, is that we're remembering a time, and even right now, if you can think about it, you may actually be able to feel it again. Those safety pathways coming alive, but you feel it as this pull towards. You feel this as a pull towards somebody else potentially, when it's truly a feeling like that. So pushes and pulls, they feel different. They have much different felt experiences. When you feel this push away from, for at least for me, it's this like weighed down kind of feeling. There's more weight to it. I literally feel like an impulse to like want to back up, versus safety, where you might feel more bouncy, more airy, more light. And I know these sensation words might be new, but the basic idea here is that we don't just feel our feelings or emotions. Our feelings and our emotions have felt experiences in our body. So these are words that can be used to describe what's happening in our bodies, okay? Feeling this push away might feel like overwhelm, and so you feel this push away from something. It might feel like insecurity, maybe. Pull towards could feel like clarity. It could feel like confidence, maybe. For me in particular, when I feel this push away, or when something doesn't feel safe, I feel this sort of like grating, like the image in my mind is like cheese through a grater. Is that what it's called? And it feels like friction, and so that's an indication to me that I probably should avoid whatever it is, whatever that is. That's just one example. But also for me, I feel the sensation of like cleanliness or smoothness when my safety state's active. I was working with a coach, and when that became active, she would say, "Do you feel this?" Or I would describe like, it sounds weird, but I feel this sensation of cleanliness or like smoothness. And she goes, "Yeah, that's where we want to go. That is that safety state being active." So it sounds odd to use these words, and it's not how we typically talk at all. But if you were able to look inward and notice what it feels like to be safe, or to feel more flight, fight, shut down, whatever it is, there are these experiences that come along with it. And among all these experiences, there is like a basic push or pull that could be an indication of more safety or more danger of that state being active, at least. So in essence, when I say push and pull, these basic little impulses are connected to very, very, very primitive instincts of approach or avoidance. When there's something that is safe or not dangerous, basically, mammals in particular, we'd feel these sensations to go towards whatever it is. When we're around other safe mammals, we would go towards them, and that would help to build a community, tribe, and that was extremely necessary, at least for the little mammals. Actually, still now, I'd say, who are living in a world dominated by reptiles, to feel this connection with other mammals to kind of create our tribes and our communities, to build families and whatnot. But this goes even beyond that. I mean, just avoidance and approach and avoidance is extremely kind of like an essential piece of living organisms. Actually, not even just living. I guess plants also kind of not approach, but they face towards sun, which is necessary, right? Maybe you could even extend it that far. I don't know. So this approach and avoidance would be extremely important, obviously essential for when it comes to mating, staying in families. Like, you kind of have to be able to approach people, right, to stay close to them, but you also have to approach people in order to mate and to create other little people or other little mammals. So you might you could listen to your tiny little impulses of push and pull, and that could give you a deeper understanding of what is safe for you in particular. This is different than being pulled, kind of quote unquote pulled, towards something that has been like a maladaptive coping mechanism. Someone had put in the chat, they don't trust their impulses, and this probably has a lot to do with that general idea that maybe we feel this pull toward junk food, maybe we feel a pull toward alcohol, or whatever it is that you do to kind of cope with your stuck defensive energy. So you may feel a pull towards that, but the pull that I'm talking about with safety is different than that. So in polyvagal terms, the pull toward a maladaptive coping mechanism, that's called a behavioral adaptation. That is there to help you deal with, or that's something that you do to deal with stuck defensive state, to feel or to deal with, as best you can, maybe stuck flight, fight, shut down, or freeze energy. When that gets too much, then we do these coping skills or these behavioral adaptations as a way to kind of feel relief. It doesn't really relieve, doesn't really solve the problem, but it may be good enough for that person to get through that moment, maybe. So that's the pull that I'm talking about is different than that. There's also just like all of us do it, that mindless like thumb swiping when you're on your phone. You just feel this like pull to do it in a way. It's more of a compulsion though. I wouldn't call it a pull in the sense that I'm talking about with safety. It's more of this like compulsion, like we have to do it. And that really comes from more of a defensive state and not a safety state. That comes from the inability to actually feel your defensive state, be with it, and let it kind of discharge and do its thing. So instead of being with it, what we end up doing are these compulsions, not pulls, but compulsions. Kind of like that differentiation that works for me. So that may come from that flight fight energy attempting to discharge, or it may come from that flight fight energy returning. So maybe it's stuck there and it's trying to come out, or maybe you're in more of a shutdown state and that flight fight energy is now coming up within you and it may be too much. And then we turn to these compulsions or these behavioral adaptations in order to get some kind of relief. Okay, so basically the idea here on a much deeper polyvagal level is your vagal brake, which is your distress tolerance, can't handle the intensity of that flight fight energy surfacing. And so it turns to these coping skills. But the difference here, another way to tell a difference is when we do these behavioral adaptations, it's different than a pull towards safety. When you feel a pull towards safety, it may be a sensation like for me, that smoothness, that cleanliness, that kind of just that feel that I have. But when you feel this compulsion toward these behavioral adaptations or these coping mechanisms, you're not going to have that same feeling. You actually may have guilt, shame, regret, judgment, despair, numbness, and a whole bunch of other stuff. So that's maybe a really good indicator, although that's like more after the fact. When you feel a pull towards safety, those feelings don't typically come along with it. They may surface as you feel safe. That's a little bit different though. But they may surface because they're kind of stuck within you, and now the body's like, oh, now it's time to feel these more difficult things. But what I'm talking about when we engage in these behavioral adaptations, along with that come all these really deep and difficult feelings. And so that's how it could be a way to tell a difference between a behavioral adaptation, a compulsion, and an actual pull towards safety. So I would really, I would encourage you to pay attention to the sensations that pull you toward safety. Things that are actually safe will feel kind of similar to what I laid out here so far. I can't tell you exactly what it will feel like for you, but that's kind of the general idea. It will not be this compulsion. It won't be this, I don't think, this overwhelming feeling. It may be different. It may be new. It might be difficult to feel things like trust or vulnerability or connection. Sure. But that's not, that's different. So as you feel these pulls towards safety, you could actually feel those more vulnerable kind of feelings. But that's different than feeling this compulsion toward a behavioral adaptation. And then along with that comes judgment and guilt and shame and all that stuff. When you feel this pull towards safety, I find it's like a slower thing. It's not as like rushed. It's not as frantic. It's a slower felt experience. It's more deliberate. There's more mindfulness. There's this cleaner kind of feeling that comes along with it. When I feel a pull towards safety, I feel this sensation of being in the present moment, of being in my body. That's a heck of a lot different than feeling this compulsion toward doing something to relieve whatever's happening inside of you. There could be a sense of mindful curiosity. So mindfulness is that ability to be in the present moment. Curiosity, I find to be part of these pulls towards safety, is that we're curious about what it feels like to do whatever it is. We're curious about the experience of engaging in that, activity, whatever, or that using that sensory exercise, whatever it is. So during these pulls to safety, you will feel your senses being more active. You'll be more aware. Maybe not more active. You're more aware of what your sensors are telling you. Bye.